Well, it was his first sprint pole for Ferrari, started on the front row alongside his old rival Max Verstappen, and in a beautifully managed race of tyres and pressure, Lewis Hamilton has claimed his first ever sprint race victory. And in just his second race for Ferrari, he will take bragging rights from this one, albeit we've got the Grand Prix to come tomorrow. What a start, though, for Lewis Hamilton and Ferrari. Welcome down to the pit lane, Alex Brundle alongside me, and what a perfectly managed race. You saw the advantage, Alex, of being out in front in clean air in terms of keeping hold of those tyres. That was very much the crux of this race, wasn't it? How it was won and lost.
It really was. There's been so much chatter up until now, but that's what you hire Lewis Hamilton for. The cover off into turn one to get himself the clean air, and then the management of the tyre through the race, using that clean air to compound the advantage, keep the air over the front wing, of course, unchallenged, and then he always had just that little bit of a response to keep the pursuers on the end of the jab. Eventually wins by just under 7 seconds over 19 laps. He just snapped immediately back into front-running Formula One world champion mode. That was really, really impressive to watch. That's
just it, isn't it? You know, he won Silverstone last year. He took Belgium by virtue of George Russell's disqualification. He was there in P2. But now he's got to learn to win again. But he doesn't have to learn much, does he? It's right there.
Well, yeah.
Just tapping into it.
I mean, it's really not been long since he was. But it's incredible. And also, you know, the communication that we talked about back in Melbourne, well, that's not a problem anymore, is it? Great job, Lewis, across the line. They've got in-jokes, they've got everything, because the car has speed. The softly sprung Ferrari working nicely around here, but that one was in the hands of the drivers. You could see what was happening further back with Leclerc, what was happening further back with Norris, drivers stuck in the dirty air, and then drivers that were able to clear it. That front pack were able to put themselves in the position to challenge, and that's exactly what Hamilton did and why he arrived on top.
What a statement from him as well. How important was it for him to get this done today?
Yeah, he's got to carry positivity, both outside the team and also inside the team, into the rest of the season, and you've got to do it early, haven't you, to demonstrate to Ferrari that you are an immediate race-winning prospect. It doesn't get much better than that at this stage of the year. And moving into the Grand Prix, they've got qualifying pace. And what's abundantly clear is the conditions are going to be really similar on Grand Prix Sunday, and they look to have race pace. Everyone will get Parc Fermé open once more. They'll be able to make changes to the car and react. But at the moment, you know, that Ferrari in clear air is the class of the field over the race run. Didn't think we'd be saying that at the end of Melbourne, did we?
No, absolutely not. Well, here is how Lewis Hamilton won that sprint race.
We welcome you to Sprint Saturday. It is time for Formula One's first sprint race of the year. Flat-out action ahead of us, and a front row with 11 world championships between them. And we're underway and sprinting to turn number one. The pole sitter Lewis Hamilton shots across Max Verstappen. He needed to interrupt his momentum into the first turn. The top five are as they work. Norris could get shuffled back. He's lost a couple of places. Laid on the brakes for George Russell, and it's a move that takes him up to fourth position.
Good skills, mate.
Laid on the brakes from Liam Lawson in the Navy Red Bull.
Oh, the contact there.
And that was elbows out. Late on the brakes for Isaac Adjar. Looks like he's got a way through. The two Frenchmen wheel to wheel as Gasly tries the long way round to reclaim the place. Battle out front, coming alive. From the slipstream to second place for Oscar Piastri. Hamilton will write a new chapter, and this time it's written in red. Lewis Hamilton wins for Ferrari for the first time in Formula One.
It's a P1, baby.
Great job, guys.
From San Diego to P1, baby. No issues with communication today, and indeed this weekend, Lewis Hamilton has taken a sprint victory. We welcome Jolyon Palmer down from commentary. That was a bit of fun, wasn't it? And a bit of a historic result in Lewis's first ever sprint race win, and for Ferrari to start this next chapter.
It was a good race, wasn't it? Really good race. I think we kind of expected that with the grid, but I like the fact that Ferrari are back, firstly. You know, that's good after what happened to them in Melbourne. Verstappen was attacking, and it's a bit like Melbourne. I think in clear air, I think it'd be very different for Max. I think maybe he'd be able to manage a bit better, and he wouldn't wilt towards the end of the race. I think that's the same for Melbourne. We're yet to see it because they can't qualify at the front yet. You've got Mercedes there, Russell, and then, of course, Piastri doing a great job. The one that's not there was Lando, was the big surprise.
And that is the unknown, isn't it? What happened to Lando Norris? You've got a theory, Alex.
So I watched Lando's onboard as it was clear he was struggling throughout the race. He was wide early on and then kind of tried to immediately redress it in the early laps by making positions. And you could see when he jumped on his onboard, there was a great big blister on the front left. None of them looked great, I'll be honest, but Lando's looked worse than everyone else's. And the handling of the car looked so difficult. I think it was tyre only. We'll wait to see if there was something else going on for him, but I think that the damage to the left front tyre he did earlier on, the spike of temperature, effectively finished his sprint race, more or less, in terms of a decent result.
Jolien, nodding in agreement.
Look, it sounds pretty good. You know, we didn't see him much in commentary.
Sounds like a good punch.
I'm glad this guy's here for the detail.
They'll come up with an engine problem or something after the race, but that's how it looked to me.
It's very plausible though, because the tyres are the ruling thing. Lando was the fastest driver yesterday. He just didn't complete the lap. I would be shocked if he's not back in the frame later on, and for tomorrow, tyres dominate in the race, and that's what we saw. So you're almost certainly right on that.
The winning car, number 44, being pulled through here. So we're going to move out of your way and ensure that that car can get back into the garage. Let's hear, though, from Lando Norris and find out exactly what did happen out there.
Hey Lando, it looked really difficult out there. I felt for you right at the start when you got a couple of wheels to the dirt. It didn't really improve from there, did it?
No, I mean, that didn't help. I just went in a bit hot, so on me, but yeah, I just struggled after that. I didn't really have any pace. I struggle a lot in these conditions with the front graining. It's like my worst nightmare, so I have a lot of work to do, but I was struggling a lot out there.
Good luck for quali.
Man, a few words, and understandably disappointed after, of course, that wide moment, saw him drop down to P9, and then, look, as you said, it was a case of just cooking those tyres, and that's the result. One overtake for P8 for the final point, but not what he'd have wanted, having coming into this weekend leading the World Championship.
Yeah, but the heart will come from from Piastri, further up the order, that the car can actually do it. It's just circumstantial with regards to Norris, the damage to the front tyre costing him the race. It's clear, though, that the McLaren, if managed correctly at the beginning of the stint, won't do that again. So that's something that they'll have to work on in the hands of Norris as they get into the Grand Prix.
It's a regular Norris thing, though, and I think he alluded to it just then. The front limitation, when there's a front limited circuit like this, he is comparatively worse. McLaren and Lando, both of them are really good at being quick and looking after rear tyres. As soon as you get to a front limited track, his advantage over Oscar, it goes. And we saw that a few times last year, a track like Vegas, and he just wasn't able to execute it as well. And so I think there's still something on him to work with. His natural driving style, he's loading up the front tyres more, and on conditions like this where everyone's having to protect them, his natural style seems to be cooking them, and he's less competitive.
It's also huge here. You can't overestimate it. 9 seconds is how far from qualifying pace they were at the end of 19 laps. It's a gulf in terms of the performance. And drivers being told over the radio, I don't care what you do, just don't turn the steering wheel anymore in turn one. Gives you an inkling of what they're up against out there.
Yeah, let's hear from Andrea Stella, shall we? Who may be able to give us a bit more information on just how difficult it was to keep those tyres alive. Andrea's with Tom Deacon.
Andrea, talk to me about that sprint race. Oscar Piastri looked incredibly assured out there.
Well, first of all, in terms of sprint, I would like to say that a deserved victory for Lewis and for Ferrari. They've been quick yesterday. Today they were very quick. So well done to them. Oscar managed to limit the damage in a way. I think his pace was strong, but in following and then fighting Verstappen, we might have used the tyres a bit more than Lewis. Said that, it's all to be proven that we could be as fast as Lewis, so it will be interesting for tomorrow. On Lando's side, we struggled definitely with managing from graining, so we didn't have much pace in hand, in fairness, and we have some work to do to understand what to do for the race tomorrow.
Yeah, Lando seemed to struggle for pace at times, and it was something beyond the tyres. Is that something you're going to look at ready for qualifying later on?
Well, I don't think he's beyond the tyres. I think it has to do with the tyres and the fact that we grained the tyres very early in the race. This is no excuse at all. The tyres are the same for everyone, and if you want to use them well, you need to do a good job from a setup and from a driving point of view. So it's just one of the many challenges, and we need to nail it both for qualifying and for the race.
Thank you very much, Andrea.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks, Andrea. I think tyres might be the buzzword of the weekend after just one sprint race here. Look, we've covered off that Lando Norris, grained those tyres, cooked them too soon. Jolien?
But he also made a mistake on the first lap.
did.
So we shouldn't gloss over that, because he was in the top 6, was attacking for 5th, and he's finished 8th. It's not just the tyres. He's actually made a mistake in qualifying. Could have been on pole, at least the front row. And then he's ended up 8th. So it's after a brilliant Melbourne, where he dealt with so much being thrown at him, he's actually just really under-delivered, and that was the moment there. A bit needless on the first lap.
I think the mistake even might lead to the tyre issue. You know what it's like. You go off on the early laps and you want to try and immediately make positions back. You forget momentarily that you've got so far to go in the race because you expected to move forward, you've dropped back. He's lent on that front tyre too hard, too early as a result, and paid for it later.
A word then on Piastri, after coming from a pretty heartbreaking home Grand Prix, just wanting to steady and settle himself in that car. It was a good move on Max. He bided his time. Bided his time. He bided his time to get the move done when it mattered.
Paid or
I did
bowed?
English at university.
One in there somewhere.
It's been a long double to start the season.
So I think he drove a really good race. I think a lot of that again was qualifying behind Max. If he had started second, I think we might have had a fairer comparison, as Andrea Stella alluded to. But probably second was the best he could. I think the Ferrari car, when you see what Charles was doing as well in the other car, even in dirty air for most of the race, came on really strong and actually was attacking Max right towards the end, another 2 or 3 laps, and he's going to be right in the hunt for third. So I think Oscar did well, maximised probably what he had.
If I was Piastri though, I'd be thinking, oh man, we were dominant last weekend. We had the best car in race conditions. I had an opportunity to win the Grand Prix. Now I've come to the next race. It might be the case later on in the year again, but now we've come to the second Grand Prix of the year, and all of a sudden it's looking really close and tight and difficult. I guess you've got to focus forward though, haven't you, on the challenge ahead?
They can dominate again this weekend still. The Parc Fermé rules are open. McLaren have the fastest car, certainly over 1 lap. They should have been on the front row. I believe they could have had a front row lockout. They did an odd run plan. They were too conservative. The drivers didn't put it all together. Norris certainly should have had pole. Piastri would have had pole had they just done 1 flyer. They fueled him up. It cost him a 10th. That's pole position. And then you're starting at the front of the grid, and you can manage. And don't forget, 12 laps of that race, Hamilton was under big pressure. And we were thinking, does he actually have the pace? But this is the experience of a 7-time champ, absorbing the pressure, using the pace of the Ferrari when it mattered so that he never had to defend from Max, and then it rewards you later on. If you'd swapped and put the McLaren there and the Ferrari in third, I still think the Ferrari is good on its tyres, as I said with Leclerc, but I think the McLaren would have a better chance to look after its tyres as well, and we'll see that probably later today. They've got to get the clear air.
Jolien, you mentioned Parc Fermé and cars coming out of that. For those out there watching who may be new to Formula One, just explain what happens now in this time between a sprint race and qualifying, because it's different to a usual weekend.
Well, it used to be Parc Fermé rules are in place, so you can't touch the car other than a little bit of front wing adjust or the stuff that the drivers can basically do themselves or the team in a pit stop. But now they can touch the car and they can make changes. So it does allow a team that's just realised that they've got a problem to look through the data. They'll have a big debrief. Pretty much that will be starting right now with all the teams looking through, hearing from the drivers about what went right and wrong. And then they can make changes accordingly. And the changes are all going to basically be to try and look after that front tyre. I think race pace is so critical, particularly if you're not going to be at the front of the grid and having that clear air.
The offshoot of that is it is decision time, and it's really quick decision time now, because they've got to make a decision on what they're going to do with the car to meet this challenge before they go qualifying later on. The tyre pressure change that Pirelli made overnight happened within the Parc Fermé race. So effectively, they've got an opportunity now before qualifying to react to that, but then they're locked in again after qualifying and they're going to have to live with whatever they've got for the full Grand Prix distance.
Well, we're on Max Verstappen's car here, just being taken into the garage. Charles Leclerc's was just behind us. Liam Lawson's is being brought through alongside us as well. For Max, most he could have done today in P3 in that Red Bull?
Yeah. I mean, I think he could, if he had made it round the outside of Hamilton, or past Hamilton in the first corner, I think he's got a good chance of staying there, actually, given the race that we just saw. The issue with losing downforce load and cooking the front tyre was so dominant that track position was everything. And that's going to be something strategically into the Grand Prix as well. Strategists up and down the pit lane are going to be looking at that and thinking, okay, the moves that we were expecting to make here through the Grand Prix, when we play that into our strategy, over previous years in the DRS zones, might not be happening purely because, just as Leclerc was finding through the race, they can't stay close enough through that long right-hander onto the back straight. So it's going to be a factor, definitely.
The Grand Prix will be interesting because there's obviously more choice you can do in terms of strategy. You have to pit once or twice. It might be a two-stopper with what we're looking at.
It's going to be a two-stopper with the amount of degradation that we're seeing.
Yeah, it looks like it will most likely be the case. And then you can play around if you're not immediately in the clear air, as Hamilton was. You can then try and find it. And I think that's going to be a big thing, is teams that are not starting at the front, finding their own bit of clear air and then using the pace and looking after the tyre. I think Max did as well as he could. I think he's driving still at such a high level right now to take the fight to those around. I don't think it certainly doesn't have the pace of Hamilton, didn't have the pace of Piastri, held on to those two that were catching him pretty quickly at the end. So I think he did well. But as you say, we've not seen the Red Bull in clear air, so we don't know actually. If it is at the front, maybe Max can hang on.
Look at the two McLarens, the two Ferraris, one in clearer air, one in dirty air. The difference in performance, and it's bigger than the difference across those top four. So that's the delta that you're dealing with.
Well, on Liam Lawson then, because we're not seeing, as you say, both Red Bulls were right in the thick of it. Scrappy race for him with a number of moments of contact. Doohan, Bortoleto, I think Behrman as well, he made contact with. P14
He was overtaking
P20.
them all, so
yeah.
it's better to be making contact that way. Driver that starts at the back, passes a few other drivers. It was combative. I think he'll take a bit of confidence, but it's mainly just learnings for Liam, really.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of drivers, particularly Liam, actually, and it was a front wing end fence. I wondered if it might be for the Red Bull. The first time I've seen that since the sprint finished. Just trying to demonstrate to the teams that they're pushing and moving forward. Something you said in comms, JP, I really agreed with. Lawson is just trying to show a bit of punch to Red Bull after a couple of difficult qualifying sessions and a difficult Grand Prix in Melbourne.
But also, it's good to do that because he needs to show, I'm actually here as well, guys. And even if he's never going to score points from the back of the grid, but he needs to demonstrate that he's capable of coming through a little bit. But the way that he had the contact with Doohan early on, and you do think, if that had just had a little puncture, the contact slightly different. Remember how small the Max and Lando Austria contact was.
It's the risk of another DNF.
And then you're having that as well. So fine line, but I thought today, making the moves, dangling a few front wings in there. He got away with it, and at least will have learned something.
Yeah, P14 for Liam Lawson, but a Grand Prix qualifying and a Grand Prix tomorrow to come for more learnings in a very tough start to this season for all of our full-time rookies. George Russell was P4, Charles Leclerc was P5, but bearing down on George Russell, wasn't he? Then we had the car of Yuki Tsunoda picking up valuable points for VCARB here. Let's hear from him.
Yuki, that was a heck of a race. How pleased are you with that performance and the immense pace of the car?
Very happy. Definitely start was decisive and enjoyed it definitely whole race. That able to keep the top teams behind. Was not certainly easy, but yeah, I think impressed with the pace, how the pace was there. To be honest, I thought it's gonna be a very, very tough race, but actually we're able to hold on quite well, and obviously towards the end I had quite a lot of degradation, and I saw Lando was catching up, so I was definitely stressing, but still good job for the teams that are able to score points, especially what we experienced last week, losing a lot of points.
Great stuff for Yuki Tsunoda in a season in which he'll have started frustrated. He's not been promoted to that Red Bull seat, but making it count and getting it done for the Racing Bulls. And behind him we had Kimi Antonelli and Lando Norris. And then we had Stroll, Norris just overtaking Stroll in the final few laps or so, just to see the Aston Martin out the points, with Fernando Alonso further behind as well. Yuki Tsunoda, though, we asked who would be that driver, or those drivers, who would sneak a point out of the top 4 from in just 8 scoring here. It's Yuki.
He's having a great early season. They brought a set of circuit-specific upgrades here for Tsunoda, but honestly, the car looks decent, and he's put in the performance there. Found his way to the back end of the points, and it's just a continuation, I think, of what I saw from him in the first Grand Prix of the year. It's a decent effort, isn't it, from Tsunoda?
He did it on the first lap, made it through, managed to get ahead of as many people as he could on the first lap, and then had no pace to go with the top 5 who disappeared up the road, and just frustrated the living daylight out of Kimi Antonelli for the rest of the race. But another consummate performance from a guy that's doing it very regularly now, and he'll be really pleased. I think he's not in the Red Bull at the moment, because he's making that team his own, and he's delivering top 10s all the time.
Well, you mentioned Kimi Antonelli. What of the rookies then? Once again, Kimi Antonelli up there and getting the job done, but you had Hadjar alongside Gasly, you had Behrman, and then a bizarre moment at the end where we saw Bortoletto doing Hulk just getting in a complete scramble on the final lap.
Yeah, I think that was a little bit clumsy, actually, on the final lap. But I think these rookies will just be delighted that they've now got a proper dry condition stint under their belt in race conditions. Feisty at the back of the field, youth versus experience as well, which we always love to see. And I'm surprised he let him round the outside there, actually. But he didn't, as I recall. I was gonna say, go on, get your elbows out, and he did so.
A four-way fight we saw at the back there, but a four-way fight at the front, gearing up to this qualifying later, the Grand Prix, and of course teams now will be making adjustments based on what they have learned in terms of tyre degradation, in terms of temperature here, and in terms of where they finished in that sprint race. How are they going to fall out in qualifying? Where are we going to see? Because are Ferrari going to keep the pace they had? They're mighty quick on the straights.
I think the circuit, as it is now, with this temperature, is conducive to the basic design of the Ferrari. It's in general softer, doesn't overload the tyre as much, so it's Ferrari territory. Hamilton, as we've seen, can deliver the lap. It's going to be all about how they make the front tyre work from turn 1 all the way through to turn 15. So all to play for, I think, and it's as much now about execution, which is what they've got to nail, as it is about sort of basic pace and car design.
It's an odd time, isn't it? And even for one lap, we're talking about getting the tyres to work for a lap. But it's what a lot of it comes down to in these temperatures with this circuit and the asphalt as well. I think we're still looking at Ferrari versus McLaren at the front. Max, you can never rule out, because we know that he can put that car where it shouldn't really be. And the other one I think we've done a bit dirty here is George Russell, who had a really good drive. Let's not forget, he actually lunged Charles Leclerc early on in that race, and he got the Mercedes above where that car should really have been. And lunging Leclerc really cost Charles the chance to go and fight with the top 3, because I think he would have had the pace to go with the Piastri Verstappen-Hamilton fight. So Russell doing a great job. I think they're a little bit away, but if he can qualify at least top 2 rows, then maybe.
Yeah, without significant changes, I don't think Merck have got the ultimate pace for the front row, but it did look decent over the race run, didn't it?
Great stuff. Let's hear from Charles Leclerc then on that start, and indeed how tricky he was finding some of the turns out there.
Hey, Charles, were you surprised at just how difficult the pace was? And even though you caught George towards the end, it just didn't feel like you had a comfortable enough car to go really after him?
No, I mean, I wouldn't really blame the car, because Lewis is doing a great job with it. So for me, it's me really. Until now, I haven't been comfortable with the car as it is. I took a slightly different direction compared to Lewis in terms of setup, but I don't think it's all in there. I just really struggle on this track historically, and it's there's no exception this weekend, but it's not an excuse. I need to react, and qualifying will be a good start to turn things around.
All the best for later.
A bit of work perhaps then to do on Leclerc's side of the garage. Not so for Lewis Hamilton. Let's hear from our most recent sprint race winner.
Hey Lewis, congratulations. Victory for Ferrari. Could you have even dreamed of it coming so quickly, and how was it?
Yeah, I felt great today, waking up. I really do love being here, especially when the weather's good. Obviously, when the weather's not good, it's never great anywhere in general, but the weather's been spectacular all week, and we have such a great welcome here in Shanghai, and I love this track. And with the new tarmac and everything, there was really a lot of grip, but there's quite a lot of deg for everybody. I think a lot of graining on these tires. They put the pressures up overnight, so the pressures are super high. But yeah, I just tried to manage it. But I mean, starting from first in the Ferrari and winning in the Ferrari is next level, man. It's mega, and I definitely didn't expect to have it at the second race. So I really, as I said before, can't get ahead of ourselves. We've got to make sure we improve the car for this afternoon, and I hope that we can be in a good position to fight again tomorrow.
Well, best luck for that.
Thank you.
Half the job done then for Lewis Hamilton, but an important statement for him. Your thoughts then on Lewis's reaction to his win? He's clearly loving being here.
He's on cloud 9 this weekend, isn't he? From the first lap, he's looked good. And I think there would have been doubts in Lewis's mind as well. And we remember speaking to him after Silverstone last year, and he won the race, home Grand Prix, and he admitted to the fact that he has these doubts. His moved team, it's a huge shift to go to Ferrari. Melbourne didn't go the way that he'd wanted, not only with the race, but also just chasing his tail, trying to get onto terms with Charles, who's rapid. And so he turns up here, and he's back to Hamilton, the 7-time champ, on form. And just a confidence that he's going to have from that is going to be huge for the whole season.
I think it's pure relief as much as anything as well. It's a massive career move. One of the biggest driver transfers, if not the biggest driver transfer in the history of Formula One. The last one he did, of course, all those years ago when he moved from McLaren to Mercedes, there was a lot of commentary about that.
Worked out though, didn't it?
It went okay. This one, he's pulled the trigger again. And just pure relief that actually looks like he's going to be able to deliver on that. Pure relief and joy. He's loving life.
Fantastic start for Lewis Hamilton, but still with work to do because we have qualifying for the Grand Prix and, of course, the race to come. Here are all the times you need to keep ahead of for this weekend here in China. Here then the schedule. Your sprint winner, Lewis Hamilton, a pre-qualifying show coming up at 2:30. We'll be back with you very soon indeed, ahead of a 3 p.m. qualifying, the post-qualifying show just afterwards, a 2 p.m. pre-race show, and 3 p.m. on Sunday for the Chinese Grand Prix, and the post-race show coming immediately afterwards on F1 TV and on YouTube. You can also catch all the highlights from the sprint race and the Grand Prix itself on YouTube as well. Great stuff, guys. Well, thank you both very much indeed. Final thoughts ahead of qualifying? Early prediction for pole?
Well, that's a very early prediction for pole. I think it's going to be all about the decisions made now in terms of not only the car setup, but also the run plan in reaction to sprint qualifying that's going to choose it. I reckon McLaren have got another tweak to put them back on top before quali, but then we'll see what happens in the race.
Yeah, I think we should all remember that this Parc Fermé situation will change the pecking order again. So as we're standing here now, things look rosy for certain people or certain teams. Remember the last sprint we had in Qatar a few months ago now, but Max Verstappen was really struggling through the sprint, and we thought Red Bull were nowhere. They made changes in Parc Fermé and then took pole, won the race. So even those that are on the back foot now can change it, and the data deep dive is going to be all important.
Yeah, just about anything can happen from this point, and that's the beauty of a sprint weekend. We've had fast and furious action so far, more to come, Grand Prix qualifying, and we may just have a few scripts rewritten once again. Thanks so much for joining us, though, for the post-sprint show, and indeed the sprint race. We'll see you in a bit for qualifying. Bye for now from Shanghai.
We're back. I can't do this, seriously. I would like to do the using ball.
This is Formula One.
Are you ready? Lights out.